First, we are going to hear from Miss Nicole Brummer, who is class of 94 and president of the Alumni Association.
Good morning. And not to be a little redundant, but this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. For 8 of my 10 years here on this campus, Mrs. Laura started our day out with that song, and I had to do it. I could stand up here for hours telling you tales of my years spent here on this hillside. Days of athletic victories, academic challenges, magnificent friendships, even sledding down the hills on lunch trades, food fights with pepper steak and rice, and hiding from French teachers in trash cans. My list of memories is endless. Being a St. Paul School for Girls alumni means the world to me. This was a place where I was allowed to feast on knowledge and grow into the young woman I knew I could become. Last night, I had the pleasure of joining the class of 1967 for dinner. I had so much fun listening to their tales from the Levering years. They reminded me so much of my tales from the Lila years. That connection is what makes being an alum so special. It doesn't really matter what year you graduate. We are all St. Paul's girls. Carol Mettam and the class of 1967 are celebrating their 45th reunion. Carol has a daughter, Whitney, who is the class of 2004. She has a son who is a graduate of the boys' school, class of 2005. She has been a very active alum and was elected to the Board of Trustees in 1983. While on the board, she served as president, making her the first alumna to do so. Please join me in welcoming Carol Mettam.
Thank you all, and good morning. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here today, and although Nicole has already blown my cover, it's really hard for me to believe it's been 45 years since I graduated. I was talking to a classmate just this week about our reunion, and she said the same thing. Carol, can't be 45 years. We're not that old. And I replied that I agreed and said, if that's your story, it's my story too, and I'm sticking to it. One of the points that Beth Garner, Alumni Director, suggested that I might talk about this morning was what was St. Paul's like when you were here? Well, although it's not a big school now, it was even smaller then. The building itself was much smaller, only one story. The gym was not a separate building at all. It was a large multi-purpose room right off the front hall, which is now used mostly for dance, I think. We met in the gym and sat on the floor for prayers every day, just as you are doing here. But we also had tables and benches that pulled out from the walls, which transformed the room into our cafeteria with a very small adjacent kitchen. After lunch, those tables were folded back up again so that the same room could be used for gym, dance, play rehearsals, and glee club, not at once. Luckily, a new gym, a smaller version of the one we're in now, was built in this location before we graduated. And that's where we graduated. There was no graduation garden then. The school store was actually in a closet, and it only sold school supplies. Go figure. The classrooms themselves were smaller at that time, and our entire class was composed of 24 girls. Everyone knew everyone else, and they cared about everyone else, which happily still seems to be true today. Teachers, of course, commanded respect, but they were concerned about us as individuals as well. They were accessible, they knew you, your strengths, your weaknesses, and they were honest with you. I was never a strong math student. English was my subject, and I had taken a little less algebra than my classmates when I entered the 9th grade. So, I was playing catch-up. This was clearly demonstrated when my first algebra test was returned to me with a big fat V on it. Mrs. Boyce, my math teacher, asked to see me. When I met her later, she told me not to worry about the grade because she thought I'd do fine in the class. Naturally, I was a bit puzzled since I'd done poorly on the test, but she put her arm around me and said, when I checked out the rest of your grades, I realized you were actually a good student. At first, I thought you were just dumb. I'm relieved. As I said before, I liked my English classes. I learned about Greek tragedy, Shakespeare, poetry, meter, different authors and genres, but more importantly, our teachers taught us how to think and write. Those teachers, especially Mrs. Fulton and Mrs. Nicola, really made us dig into the text, come up with ideas, and dig again for meaning, for nuance, for truth, for symbolism, for beauty. And then there was Mrs. Levering, our first head of school, who we called the headmistress. She was a no-nonsense woman who was revered by both students and teachers alike, but she was also fun and funny. One day, after gym class, there was a long line at the water fountain. A couple girls in front of me were getting kind of crazy, dunking the girl in front of them right into the water. And all of a sudden, there was a gasp. One of the girls, whose back had been turned, had turned around and dunked the person in front of her, who just happened to be our headmistress, Mrs. Levering. And without missing a beat, Mrs. Levering laughed, turned around, and dunked her right back. SPSG has always had this underlying sense of how to combine the all-important calling of educating girls with the fun and the frivolous. And a lot of that was due to our founding headmistress, Mrs. Levering. I'm sure lots of girls' school alumni have fond memories of their school, but we knew that we were cut from special cloth because we were actually created to be a bit different. Mrs. Levering and the founding board had a vision for a place that was a challenging college preparatory school, but not a huge pressure cooker as some schools were. And for a while, we were misunderstood because the pressure cooker environment was kind of the norm around town. But the founding vision of the school prevailed, and from what I can tell, the symbiotic relationship, which I learned here in science class, is the mutually advantageous relationship of two entities. The symbiotic relationship of a challenging school and an engaging, warm atmosphere is very much alive. And speaking of being very much alive, your Alumni Association, all the women who have graduated before you, is alive and very important to the school. I've personally been active, as Nicole said, as an alumna and was very proud to be part of the Board of Trustees, which sets policy for the school. So going back a bit again, when I was a student, there was no coordination with the boys' school, other than dating, of course. We referred to the boys' school very loosely, as in the guys in the school up the hill, which you probably still do. We rather thought we were self-sufficient, and we were in many ways, but the Board of Trustees of both schools saw a bigger picture. They saw two schools with a similar heritage, with St. Paul's at the root of their names and identity, on the same 100 acres, and yet with different daily schedules and some different course offerings. And what they saw beyond that was a fabulous opportunity for both schools. After much consideration and investigation, both boards made plans to go forward with coordination, which we officially did in 1986. The advantages were immediate. We were the only school in town that offered the benefits of two schools in one, so to speak. Each school gained leverage and course offerings that previously only the other school taught. The perspective of two schools with one vision was a boon to our school and the boys' school as well. It's a real case of the product being larger than the sum of its parts. You still have the benefits of that coordination now, and it's a decided plus, which was not available when I was here. I really hope it continues. When I was asked to speak this morning, besides the suggestions I received about possible topics, I thought about some defining moments for me at St. Paul's. One memory that kept popping up was when I received my school ring. Back then, we got them in our sophomore year. I was so excited to get that ring. The day after I got it, though, when I was getting ready to go out to dinner with my parents, I took my ring off to wash my hands. And it flew out of my hand, did a beautiful arc across the bathroom, and went right down the toilet, which had just been flushed. I couldn't believe it, and neither could my mother. That night at dinner, I told my grandmother what had happened. She commiserated and asked me how much the ring cost. $28, I told her. A little different, huh? My dear grandmother bought me another ring, and to me the ring really meant I belonged here. Being here today reminds me that I still belong here. to this uniquely wonderful place, this St. Paul's School for Girls. All of you and I are truly lucky, and I, for one, am very grateful. Thank you very much.
For a little piece of gratitude, we have a gift for you. And she's going to get a girls' school bracelet, which you can add charms to, and you guys get this on Senior Day. So the seniors will get these as well. So thank you very much.